It's OverDrive for your Thursday afternoon. Welcome in. You're watching on TSN. You're listening on TSN 1050, TSN's YouTube channel. My name is Aaron Rolnick. That's Dave Festruck from the Toronto Star. That is true company man, Dave Naylor, in his suit and TSN hat. Nail gun, Mr. Festruck. Great to see you guys. Today is a true treat.
It's a bit of a reunion of sorts.
Very much so.
I heard you talking yesterday about, comparing yourself to Travis Kelce, and Kelce was saying,
only in age, Dave. Only in age. Bank account, looks, partner, nothing even close.
But the fact that you referenced your own age to prove that Travis Kelce is old.
Yeah, that is true.
Made me feel like time has passed because, remember, the only time in my life I've ever been given an opportunity to hire someone, I hired you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Your first full-time gig.
That's
at
right.
TSN.
That is true. That was a long time ago.
You were a kid.
I was.
Where did this time go?
I'm still a kid. I'm just an older kid. But yeah, we all used to work together on TSN Drive.
You were my producer.
That's right. That preceded OverDrive and then the Breakfast Club on the morning show. So it's great to see you guys. And
good stuff.
We've got a lot of good stuff to get to today. And when we were doing those shows on TSN Drive, we were talking about guys like Jose Batista and R.A. Dickey with the Toronto Blue Jays. Now we're talking about Daz Cameron and Nathan Lucas hitting home runs in Tampa. The Jays just coming off a big win over the Rays, 5-1. They take 2 of 3 from Tampa, 3 games under 500, and they continue to do it in these unconventional ways, getting contributions from guys who, frankly, a lot of people wrote off, including myself. Shane Bieber goes 7 strong for the Toronto Blue Jays, and it's a very impressive series win. And they could have swept the Rays. If Jesus Sanchez doesn't defend like he's blind yesterday, Toronto sweeps the Rays, and they are right there heading into a very important series against the Yankees starting tomorrow night. This is something to watch all of a sudden. This scrappy bunch, it's hard not to get behind these guys.
Well, the first series win, you were just saying, AK, the first series win in the little trop of horrors since September 2023. Nearly 3 years ago.
That's crazy.
Finally, they got it done. And how'd they do it? They did it with something they haven't had most of the year, which was an offense. 21 runs in 3 games, including 5 today. They're hitting some home runs. And what do you know? They're doing it without Vladdy.
And they might need Vladdy soon because they're suffering a bunch of injuries. Jimenez pulls up lame today, and Bateman gets hurt the night before. Defensively, the team's a little dicey, but
they don't need Vladdy. Like, can you imagine putting Vladdy back into the middle of this lineup, like 2 or 3 hole when they're going good? Like, that's going to be a tough decision for Mr. Schneider.
But how do you not do it, right? He's still your highest paid player. He's still Vladimir Guerrero in his prime. If he's not injured, how do you not? And I get what you're saying, right? Because it's been a drag, right? It's been frustrating for everybody, and I assume that. Like just the vibe around him in the dugout is probably not, extremely positive.
Right. He's a rally killer.
Yeah. But you got to do it. You got to plug him back.
And they will do it. It's just a question of where they plug him back in, not if they plug him back in. Do I think they're going to plug him back into the 3-hole? We talked about this yesterday. They're not moving Alejandro Kirk anywhere. This guy is as dialed in as anyone in Major League Baseball. He's stapled to that 3 spot. George Springer had a huge 2-run single today, if you want to call it a single, kind of a squib bunt type thing that got past the second baseman and found its way into the outfield. He's come up big in that series. So for the Jays, you got to just continue to find ways to get it done. They're dealing with a lot of injuries now. It looks like they're getting Vlad back on Saturday. He's playing today in A-ball in a rehab stint, and if all goes well, he's eligible to return on Saturday. And we all know if he's eligible to return, he's capable of returning, he's going to return. It's just a matter of where they slot him into the lineup. And a very fascinating decision that John Schneider is facing in that respect. Because, again, Kirk, I don't think you're moving. But, I don't know, do you take Nathan Lucas out of the 2 spot? I mean, he played an incredible game today, defensively, offensively. And Springer's been hot. Okamoto has a couple homers this weekend. And Vlad just really hasn't done anything for a very long time. So it's a very, very delicate decision that Toronto's facing here, and I'm not sure which way they're going to go.
Yeah, well, we had Steve Phillips on yesterday on the show, and he was giving his opinion that, you plug him right back into the 3 spot, which, AK, you'd made the case that why would you move Alejandro Kirk, who's maybe one of the hottest hitters in all of baseball right now. The 2 spot's the place that Schneider wants him, but they had Daz Cameron in there today, and Daz, what was that, a 442-foot
destroyed that
bomb?
baseball.
Absolutely. And so, to your point, Naylor, he's a $500 million man. You're going to put him in the lineup, but when you look at how they hit today and how they've been hitting in this Tampa series, I mean, the top of the order has been basically really good. So, I'm with Mr. Griffin, Rich Griffin, our old pal from TSN Radio and the former communications director of the Toronto Blue Jays and a manager himself, Griff. Griff's been saying hit him 7th. Like, put him down there and just say, hey, buddy, like, work your way back up.
Yeah.
How about, like, we know you make a lot of money, but how about proving you're worth it?
I think if you're the Jays, you got to be hoping, like you've been hoping all season. Mm-hmm. But you're hoping that this time, that this 7 days away, does something, right?
Yeah.
And I heard Steve Phillips yesterday speculating there may be something physical. The guys don't always reveal that, right? That it may not just be all between the ears with him. But that's the hope. I mean, if you try to think of scenarios that would change the narrative around Vladimir Guerrero, and frankly, this Blue Jays season, right? He comes back Saturday, and for the next 6 weeks, he's Vladdy, and they're in the playoffs.
And he does
and
it,
all of
does
this
it starting in
forgotten.
New York, too, right?
Yeah.
Where a place where he has owned the Yankees. You're exactly right. It would completely change everything for the Jays, the perception of this team. And again, when you look at some of the ways that they've been generating offense, like how sustainable is it? You got to slug, and it's great to see Daz Cameron and Nathan Lucas hitting home runs. It's not happening every night. Okamoto's up to 26 on the year, which is incredible for him. But again, the lack of slug's been a major issue for this team all year. If they can get Vlad back, and whether it's in the 7-hole, the 3-hole, who cares? If he's just a reasonable facsimile of what he used to be, even as recently as last regular season where he was good at 23 bombs, an 850 OPS, you like to see that. But, man, if you can get Vlad cooking in conjunction with this pitching, again, Bieber today cannot be understated. What a performance.
Yes.
Like, he was nails. And we were talking, Dave, before the show, how nobody traded for Bieber at the deadline. He was there for the taking, for sure. Free agent at the end of the season. No one wanted him. And I know he had that horrible start before the deadline where he walked everybody in sight, and he barely got. I don't think he got out of the first inning.
6 walks.
Yeah, I'm sure that teams out there are thinking, damn, probably should have made a move on Bieber. We could have had him for a song. And he looks pretty damn good right now for the Jays over his last 4 starts.
Yeah.
The thing that's so impressive about this and so weird about this is, like, it's not like they've been climbing over the bottom of the American League.
No, 3 games under 500 still.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, like, it's the Yankees.
I know.
It's the Red Sox. It's the Rays. And, of course, baseball is such a weird game, and so much stuff defies explanation, that it would be absolutely believable that they could, finish these series against these teams that are actually good and then move to the portion of the schedule where they're playing garbage teams and fall flat on their faces.
Oh, yeah.
That.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the quality of competition is a little bit of a misnomer because we're talking about how they've got the schedule coming up after they face the Yankees. They got a bunch of sub-500 teams, but they're a sub-500 team too, right? And to AK's point, they're a sub-500 team with a bunch of injuries that are creeping up, and they're a sub-500 team with a lot of pitchers who, in terms of the Biebers and the Scherzers of the world, you're never quite sure what you're going to get when they're out there, right? And, so who knows? I mean, but I will say this, give the Blue Jays credit. Like, they were written off, and maybe that's been a big asset to them mentally. Just when nobody believes in them, they've sort of found a way to make believers of those people. And, like, they're making it interesting, which is really all you can ask for if you're owning the place and you've, dumped all that money into that stadium, and people have paid for the tickets. And guess what? There's a reason to show up.
One thing I really find interesting is John Schneider's approach to this whole thing, where, again, I'm sure there's been times behind the scenes, this guy's smashing things, going completely bananas about the way his team has been performing. But you look at yesterday when Jesus Sanchez essentially gives away the game, forgets how to play defense. The Jays lose a game they probably should have won. If he catches that ball, the second misplay, with the bases loaded and 2 outs, which he should have caught, literally everybody else catches it. Yeah. Maybe the Jays win, they sweep Tampa. But Schneider, post-game, you see, he's very calm, cool, collected. Doesn't go out of his way to shred Sanchez. Maybe a lot of managers would. And it very much falls in line with his approach over the last number of years, right? Jeff Hoffman. Think about the early part of the season. He continued to give him opportunities. I think about Brendan Little. Say what you will about Schneider, but he is very committed to ensuring his players at least have the appearance of having his support. And we'll see about Sanchez tomorrow. I imagine he'll be back in the lineup because, frankly, against right-handed pitchers, he's one of their best hitters. So I just think the approach from Schneider is something that should not be underlooked as far as how this team has been able to kind of keep its head above water in spite of dealing with so much adversity this year, none of it positive.
It's funny, like, in this market, obviously everybody's excited that the Jays have got, and they've got a shot. But and you guys were talking about a little bit about this week. The absolute softness of the race for the wild card in the American League, and this is always just a point. This is just a personal thing for me, is that I loved. I don't know, sound like the old guy here. The fact that baseball was the one sport where, like, the regular season was everything, right? Like, it was like, I used to say, watching, like, when you go to a sprinter's race, you don't go watch to see who's going to finish third. You go to watch to see who's going to win the 100-yard dash. Right. That's all that matters, right? Second doesn't matter, third doesn't. And, like in those early days when the Jays were having success, you had to win the American League East. You had to finish first out of 7 teams. And there was a great term when baseball expanded its playoffs and went on to all these extended wild cards. Somebody described it. I don't know who the writer was, but I thought it was a great term. They described it as the Hartford Whalerization of baseball. Yeah. Because the Hartford Whalers was that awful team in hockey back when, the NHL had 21 teams. And every year, Hartford would get in and get eliminated in the first round, but they always got in. They were like the symbol of bad playoff team. And here we are in baseball.
Third wild card, right? When we talked about the NBA, which has the play-in now. You wonder if the NHL will eventually follow suit. The NFL adding more playoff teams over the last number of years.
I don't love it. And college football, and
the college football playoff, March Madness. Again, everyone's just looking for new ways to generate revenue. The easiest way to do that is by having more teams.
I think there was a year that you and I were doing radio that in the baseball playoffs, this would have been before the third wild card, every single series matchup, the team with the worst record from the regular season won. Now, that's good, like, in isolation, but I don't know that you want your playoff to be completely, it takes the significance of your regular season away.
It definitely does.
And I'm just never in favor of that.
Well, I mean, it is making a mockery of what a playoff team should be because if form holds, guys, the third wild card right now, the Minnesota Twins are 2 games below 500 in the third wild card spot. The Jays are a half game behind them. The idea that you would have sub 500 teams in the playoffs,
like I say, it's like watching the 100-yard dash and watching the battle for sixth.
Yeah,
you're right. And again, to use a hockey explanation from this past year, think about the Atlantic Division, the Eastern Conference as a whole. I think 99 points got in, and then in the Pacific, Connor McDavid calls it a pillow fight, which it was. People were just giving away points night after night. You sneak in. Think about the season the Vegas Golden Knights had. Yeah. They were terrible in the regular season,
and then there they are.
And then they're there at the end. Again, you build your team for the playoffs and where it means the most, and that's kind of how sports has changed. In totality, it's just across the board. Just get in.
Just get in. It's like
just get in. And again, you look at the Jays. If they just get in, I'm still quite skeptical. I think you guys know that. The audience knows that over the course of the week if you've been listening. I'm still quite skeptical they can do it, but I just continue to go back to the competition that the Toronto Blue Jays have, and you can see it up here on TSN and TSN's YouTube channel. I mean, Minnesota, Texas, Cleveland, Baltimore, Detroit, none of these teams are any good.
It's Blue Jays have the best pitching of any.
And the Blue Jays have, again, Bieber looks really good. Scherzer obviously walked a lot of guys yesterday, but not his worst performance. We've seen, I know his ERA is in the 7s, but Scherzer's been pretty good. You have Dylan Cease, the best pitcher in this race by a mile. Mm-hmm. And you have Soriano, who's been good since coming over. And you've got this bullpen with Varland, who we saw today, with Rogers, with Fluharty, with Braden Fisher, with Spencer Miles. Like, it's legit. And that might be all you need. And you get into, you might play Chicago in the first round. Why not? Yeah. Why not? You just got to get in.
I mean, starting on April 1st with that lineup, I don't know that you. But,
no, you're right.
You're basically talking about a 6-week season.
That's exactly it.
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting what you say there, Naylor. Like we the purists among us, there was something beautiful about you got to win the East to get into the playoffs, and there was. Hey,
like you suck for 2 weeks, you're toast.
Yeah, there was the old people, our dads, knew a time when you had to win the American League, right? Yeah. Like you had to win. Yeah. So that's great, but I think what the expansion of playoffs, the expansion of the recent World Cup, right? Like everybody, the purists were saying it's been 32 teams since time immemorial. It should be 32 teams. They went to 48. It was pretty damn good.
It was incredible.
Yeah. Like there were a few stinker games, but there was a lot of really good games, and you just had more of the globe had a team.
Yeah, deepest sport in the world too.
Yeah, and you had more horse. More countries had a horse in the race, and so it makes sense why they'd say, well, why not 64? Yeah. And
the difference there would be that you're not disrespecting a regular season by expanding.
Right.
I know there's qualifiers like forever in World Cup, But you're not saying, well, these games are meaningless because we've expanded the pool.
But you're making qualifying a lot easier.
Yeah, you're making qualifying.
You're basically putting it like a lot of teams.
But the show is the World Cup, right? That's the show.
Yeah, Italy still might not qualify.
Look out, Carlo's going to call you, Dave. You don't want to talk about it.
Sad about that. How did we have a World Cup in Toronto without Italy?
That
is
it's a shame.
It's
a real shame. You could see my smile just about how devastated I am that the Italians missed. My man Carlo Coliacovo only tells me about it every single day. What a man! How did the Italians not make it?
It did deprive us of what could have been one of the great sporting events in the history of Toronto. Like Canada, Italy on that opening game instead of Canada, Bosnia Herzegovina. I mean, it would have been a premium event.
I mean, that's my earliest memories of soccer, right? Or like Paolo Rossi leading Italy to a World Cup and Toronto just exploding like it was like in nothing I'd ever seen. So.
Yeah, I know it's a real shame, but we'll see if they've got it in 2030. Yeah. I'm sure that the Italians will come along, and who knows how big that tournament is there. But while we talk about expansion, and we know the NHL is eyeing expansion, the NBA is eyeing expansion. Dave, I wanted your take on what Roger Goodell had to say earlier this week, talking about NFL expansion overseas potentially. And again, we don't know where that'll be. He was speaking to a German media outlet and saying that's something that will happen. We didn't give a timeline necessarily, but it will happen. How do you envision that working? Because I've been struggling, and we've been talking about the logistics behind that. Doesn't seem all that feasible, at least in the short term.
I think, I mean, Roger Goodell, that's a strong statement when he said it will happen. Now, he didn't say necessarily even under his watch. But the NFL is an interesting situation because although it's the gargantuan of North America, outside of North America, it's not an international game. Now, it has become a lot more, even in the last 10, 15 years. If you look at NCAA rosters right now, most teams have Europeans. And there are, they've realized that there's free education if you're big and strong and you're in Europe and you want to go to school in America. And there's guys in the NFL and the CFL that have come through those programs. So it has really advanced as a global game. The NFL strategy obviously has changed from having what was a minor league, essentially, in Europe, NFL Europe, that they branded their own, to saying, screw that, we're just going to have international games. But I think the way you get around it is you have a European division. Because if you think about the way an NFL schedule works, you've got 6 games against your own division, right? So you're now talking about, so if you've got a 17-game schedule and you've got a 4-team European division, 6 games are basically local for you. You don't have to cross the ocean, right? Then you've got a handful of home games on top of that. So how many games are we talking about that you've got to go to North America for a year if you had a European division? You're talking about 5, right?
Right. So
some teams are already going over twice.
So here would be my pushback would be, okay, let's say you're the NFLPA and all of a sudden you get drafted, you got to move to Berlin.
You know what? When the NFL goes after 18 games, the NFLPA can put that on their list and say,
I can guarantee you they would.
But here's the other, and I almost thought the NFL did this as an experiment, and maybe this is just my imagination. But 2 years ago, Jacksonville went over there, played, and stayed,
right?
And played the next week there, and it was Buffalo that went there and got slaughtered. And what I was wondering was, because that's one of the issues, right? Is if you've got teams based in Europe, are the teams going over? When it's not 2 teams traveling over at the same time.
Disadvantage with
when you're already there. What's the effect of a team that has to travel versus one that's there? And I believe that's the only time they've done it. And I was kind of curious. I wonder if they did that just to kind of see, what would happen, because that's the issue. But I think there's no question. And it's funny because, the NFL seems to play games everywhere on the planet these days, except Canada, where they, once flew the flag. But
that's true. Well, I mean, you're appearing on One Bills Live today.
I did make my first appearance on One Bills Live.
The big TSN Radio Buffalo Bills partnership in full effect. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, it's fascinating. Like the NHL's trying to make inroads in Germany right now, right? They're talking about all kinds of partnerships over there. But I was talking to somebody in the sports industry a couple weeks ago, and one of the issues that came up was the idea that I think maybe some people are projecting it late 2029, 2030. There's going to be a supersonic commercial jetliner, right? We grew up with the Concorde, which could go supersonic.
Sure.
And it was apparently a pretty rocky ride. I never rode on it.
Yeah.
But we're talking a plane that could go New York, London in like 3.5 hours.
Like half the time, essentially.
Yeah. Essentially double speed, right? So if you've got that if that's the flight, 3.5 hours, New York,
my-
London. I mean, you're not like that turns into a pretty small world, right? Where what does it really matter where you're based? Like LA's
the Bills are going to
far-
fly to Houston in week
Yeah.
one. That's
That's exactly
yeah,
it.
yeah.
There's no difference.
I mean, so I wonder if, I'm not sure there's really that big an issue. Now, obviously, the international residency stuff, the idea that Americans don't want to live in other countries, that'll be an issue. There's no doubt about it. We've, when the Raptors were in their early days, and still to this day, to a degree, there's some pushback about living in a different country when you're an American, right? And I'm not sure that'll ever not be an issue, right? That'll always be something they're going to have to deal with. But, with Goodell's sort of empire building philosophy, that's the frontier he's got to go to.
I mean,
right? He's got to take that money.
And that's been the biggest area of development under Roger Goodell, is the international stuff, right? So it's been that, it's funny because, as you said yesterday on the show, we've been talking about NFL in Toronto for as long as we can remember. And on that, I feel like it's never been further away than it is right now, which is kind of...
Why is that?
Because they just dug a $2.1 billion hole in Orchard Park, New York that has $750 million of taxpayers' money poured into it. And I believe they will protect that money. That's the biggest subsidy of a stadium ever, like from the county and the state, with $750 in it, $2.1 billion. So I think what the NFL, in recognition of that, would say, we're going to keep that border open. Like we're going to keep people pouring across from Southern Ontario to support that. Now, the Bills right now do not have an issue selling tickets. And if you try to go online and buy one, you'll see, because it's like the crazy with this season first at the new high mark. But here's where you kind of look into the future. Josh Allen is 30. So around the time Josh Allen's probably stops being elite quarterback, which would be, who knows, like Matthew Stafford won the MVP last year at 37. But if he's not human, he's something superhuman, but let's just say 8-9 years. Let's give him 8-9 years. Around then, the novelty will be wearing off that stadium, just as the time the Bills have to transition out of the Josh Allen era. And I'm not picking on the Bills here. Every team that rides a quarterback for 2 decades or a decade and a half, it's often a bumpy transition out of that. And sometimes it's a quick one, and sometimes it's not.
Yeah, not everybody's Green Bay, right?
So my point is that the Toronto market may not be necessary for Buffalo in 2026 when they got a new stadium and a Super Bowl-worthy team. But let's go 8-9 years into the future when they got some very expensive tickets to sell for a lousy football team in a stadium everybody's been to. Southern Ontario and Toronto matter. I think the NFL will keep Toronto open for Buffalo in recognition of the investment that state and that county put into it.
And when you talk about revenue growth, having a brand new market invest in you, and again, MLSC and the Argos and the Bills, they have a partnership, and they have a game together last couple of years, another one later this summer. And, of course, here at TSN.
Yeah.
Like, there's a big connection. You're there all the time. TSN 1050, TSN 1200, Montreal, Ottawa. We're all playing the Bills games.
They don't need it.
They don't. And again, I think that's the idea for the Bills.
Yeah.
And I think it's brilliant. If I'm the head honchos running the Buffalo Bills, we need Toronto, we need Ontario, we need Canada to become Bills fans.
Yeah.
And I think that is already been bubbling up for a number of years. The fact that they're one of the top Super Bowl contenders, very likable team. They're clearly appealing to Canadians as much as any NFL franchise. I think that's just brilliant business. And I can't imagine it does the reciprocity in both ways. It works for TSN, works for everybody in Ontario too.
No, there's no doubt about it. I mean, the only thing that I would say, Dave, is obviously money talks, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, you got some billionaires in this area that are certainly wanting it. They're so.
Oh yeah.
What's
the tally though on that? What's the cost? Like if you right now, if the NFL came to him and said, okay, we're willing to talk about an NFL team in Toronto, right? So your stadium, your floor is probably $3 billion Canadian.
Yeah, because the Bills Stadium costs what?
2.1.
2.1
US.
SoFi costs 5. So
let's say it's $3 billion.
Okay.
What's the franchise fee?
So they're talking about in the NBA $9 billion for Vegas now.
Right.
$9 billion. So are we looking at around the same number?
More?
Higher?
It's got to be higher.
I think it's got to be higher.
It's got to be higher.
And so
you're talking. Let's call it $10 billion. So pretty much you're in for $15 billion.
I would say you're probably, if we're talking Canadian dollars, we're probably $3 billion stadium, $15 billion for the franchise. That's
Who's coming up with that much?
And here's the other thing. In the modern standard for NFL teams for their facilities, is basically like a college campus. Like when you go to these places like Flowery Branch, Georgia, or Owings Mills, Maryland, you walk in, it feels like you're at a college, like in terms of the number of buildings, meeting rooms, training facilities, fields. Where's that real estate here?
So the practice facility, like you're saying,
yeah,
the Bills have built it right next to the
right. They've
stadium,
gone. Yeah,
right?
you'd have to you might have to build it in Keswick or something, right? Like in order to afford it here.
Hey man,
and people would go.
Oh,
like,
for
you
sure.
build an NFL stadium in Keswick.
Oh, yeah.
There's a much maligned temporary rock and roll stadium up in Downsview that seems to have a lot of land.
Yeah,
next
no,
to
they
it.
do. I was there for the first time recently.
Yeah,
Don't know if I'd go back.
What'd you think?
I kept imagining how awful it would be if we had a storm.
Right.
Like how, like really
Zero shelter.
Like
Very
zero shelter
exposed.
and a long way from my car. And like I kept looking, that's all I could think of was this could be awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saw some good shows there. Dave hooked me up with tickets to Oasis there last summer.
Wow.
Great show. Great show. I know
Glad
you were
you
Chris
enjoyed it.
Stapleton
That
as
was
well.
Chris
It was
Stapleton,
awesome.
yeah.
It was awesome. Also today.
Missed the Argos home opener.
I know you
for
did.
one.
You did.
Oh.
That was a hell of a game.
Tough.
Today is the 10-year anniversary of the final Tragically Hip show in Kingston. We should give some love to, of course, the family of Gord Downey, the entire Tragically Hip crew.
I remember watching it.
10 years. And
Yeah.
I was looking at some of the numbers associated with that. I think 11 million Canadians watched some of that final concert 10 years ago today. The Grey Cup last year, 5 million Canadians. You're talking more than double the Grey Cup, which is a pretty damn big sporting event in our country. So it just goes to show how important it was 10 years ago. I was in Budapest watching it at like 3 in the morning.
I was at Liberty Village after an Argos game.
Everyone remembers where they were when the final tragedy.
I was at the Olympics in Rio.
That's right. The Olympics were going on.
I bawled the whole time, man. It was one of the saddest things I've ever seen.
And again, I would highly recommend. There's a 4-part Tragically Hip doc, which is done by Gord's brother. He produced it. Excellent. I watched that recently. Would highly recommend. Maybe today, checking that out. That's Dave Naylor. That's Dave Feshchuk. I'm Aaron Karolnik. You're watching and listening to OverDrive. We've got Colton Sissons of the Toronto Maple Leafs coming up. Chris Strevler, former Grey Cup champ, played in the NFL for a number of years as well as a quarterback, plus our NFL wins draft coming up at 5:30. Very excited for that. Lots of good stuff on the horizon. OverDrive continues.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
Overdrive continues. We're brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you more ways to play your game your way. That's Dave Festruck. That's Dave Naylor. I'm Aaron Korolnik. We're with you until 6 o'clock. Make sure to check out the show on Crave following its conclusion. Really multi-platform here, Dave. You get it everywhere. YouTube, radio, the iHeartRadio app. It's everywhere. We've got Colton Sissons going to join us momentarily of the Toronto Maple Leafs on a 2-year deal with the Leafs on July the 1st. Morgan Riley speaking last night. I know, Mr. Festruck, you spoke to him a couple of days ago, and it sounds like he's excited about the upcoming season. And I think that's a sentiment that everyone around the Toronto Maple Leafs feels at this point in time because a ton of changes. Morgan Riley's healthy, happy, ready to rock. Doesn't look like he's going to be traded. At least that's the way he's speaking about the upcoming season. So I'm sure Colton feels the same way when he joins us. And again, I don't think his opinion is exclusive to anybody the way that things are going for the Leafs right now.
Well, everybody's happy when you haven't lost a game,
That's
right?
it.
And you got a new coach and a new staff, a new GM, a bunch of new faces in the building. And for guys who've been there a long time, and nobody's been there longer than Morgan Riley, you know, you feel like, hey, I got a new chance here. Like it's a new start, even though it's year 14 as a Maple Leaf. It's an opportunity to say, okay, I had 2 terrible years under Craig Berube. Let's see how it goes under Jim Hiller, who they have a previous relationship with because of Hiller's few seasons under Babcock as an assistant. And the one thing about guys who've been assistants, you know, I was talking to Morgan the other day, and Riley said to me that when Babcock was the coach, and we know the kind of coach Babcock is, not warm and fuzzy, not exactly bent on building relationships with the players. What did the other 2 guys do? DJ Smith and Jim Hiller. They built relationships with the players, right? They went around the room and built trust with the players, is the way Morgan Riley put it. So if you've got a guy that you feel you can trust, who you have a history with, I think that's a good starting point for a new coach.
Let's bring in Colton Sissons. Why delay another moment? 11 years with the Nashville Predators, a year in Vegas, now joining the Toronto Maple Leafs. Wow, the second day in a row we have a guest driving live on television. Colton, congratulations on the new deal with the Leafs. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Good to be with you guys.
It's great to have you. What is your level of excitement? I know you're coming to a new place. You're a Vancouver boy coming over to Toronto. You must be pretty fired up to be in a Canadian market once again.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be good to be coming north of the border again and experience what it's going to be like to be a Leaf. I'm pumped.
So Colton, you're coming to the Leafs. I was wondering what kind of pre-existing relationships do you have in that locker room? Are there guys on the team that you go back with?
Not too close with anybody, actually. I know Mo Riley a little bit from skating together out west in the summers back in the day, but yeah, kind of a fresh slate for me coming into the locker room. So it'll be good to meet some new guys and get to know everybody.
And how do you, when you look at the opportunity in front of you with, we were just talking about the Leafs have a new coach, new GM, a lot of new faces. I mean, how do you feel that, you can best contribute to this team in this season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a challenge with all the newness coming in, like you mentioned, and a lot of new players in the locker room too. So I think just coming in, I'm just going to be myself and try to bring guys together and kind of establish just a good vibe in the locker room, and obviously put in the work and try to be a leader for us. And yeah, just keep it simple and just try to get everybody on the same page as fast as possible, because camp's going to be pretty quick this year, and it's going to be a lot to sort out and new systems and all that. So yeah, we're going to have to do it all together for sure.
Colton Sissons of the Toronto Maple Leafs, our guest here on Overdrive. Take us back to July the 1st. Why the Leafs? Because I'm sure there was a number of teams interested in your services. You signed a 2-year deal with Toronto. What was it that pushed it over the edge?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the opportunity to put the Maple Leaf sweater on is probably number one. That's a pretty special experience for any player, and it's tough to pass off an opportunity like that. And speak with John and just hearing what their plans were and the additions that they were making, and saw some of those come across in the morning there. And so that was really exciting too. I think we're going to be able to turn this thing around pretty quick and have a solid year.
When you look at the new format in this league, Colton, the 84-game regular season and a preseason that amounts to 2 nights. You have 2 split squad games on 2 separate nights, and that's the extent of the preseason. As a veteran player, how do you look at that? How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's great to shorten up camp, obviously, as an older fella, but I think we got to really be dialed in for those games. It's not a lot of runway, like I mentioned, and just not a lot of time to work out the kinks. So we got to be dialed in and really take those games serious and have good showings and feel good about ourselves heading into game 1.
So, Colton, you played 11 years in Nashville. You played last year in Vegas. Now you're a Maple Leaf. Can you take us through some of your experiences playing against some of Toronto's best players, the Matthews, the Nylanders, the Tavares? What were they like to compete against when you were an opposing player as opposed to a teammate?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, all 3 of those are quite special players. Obviously, I've been out west my whole career, so I haven't seen a ton of them. But I mean, they're just special players that you can really build around, and you need those superstars like that to win in this league. And really happy to be joining them. I think Matthews was one of the first texts I got. We were happy not to be battling each other in the face-off dot this year, so that'll be nice.
Oh, that's great. Well, talk about the season you just came off of. Obviously, a very long playoff run with the Vegas Golden Knights. We were just talking about how, with the way pro sports is, we're talking about the Blue Jays and how if they can sneak into the playoffs, you never know what can happen. You guys in Vegas, you didn't have the stellarest of regular seasons, and yet you go all the way to the final. What was the magic that allowed that team to go from what it was in the regular season to have such a impressive run in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, it is. You just got to get in, and you never know what can happen. Obviously, I think we really hit our stride heading into the playoffs. It was probably a bit later than we would have liked, and had a coaching change late, which gave us some new juice in the room, and really motivated us to be our best night in, night out. And yeah, we just timed it really well and started playing our best hockey at the right time. And obviously, we just snuck in there, not by a ton of points, but you just got to get in.
So we had Easton Cowan on the show earlier this week, and he said that Max Domi is arranging the Toronto Maple Leafs Fantasy Football League. Have you received an invite?
I did, yeah. I actually am quite happy with my pick this year, number 2.
Oh, you guys already do like the draft order. How is that determined?
Yeah. Domes was dialed in. He had made a little video for the group chat and drew the names out live out of a bucket, so no funny business was happening. So I think, he did a great job.
What do you think of Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson? Like, fill us in on your thinking. We could use your advice.
Yeah, I don't hate Bijan in my lineup. You know what? I've been pretty busy lately getting my life organized to move again,
Sure.
So I haven't done too much fantasy research yet.
That's fair. We got you, though. We got you. We'll send some stuff your way. Dave, you got something for Colton?
No, I was just going to ask you about the details of, how are you looking at getting into camp? Like, have you come to Toronto yet? Or, do you know where you're going to be sort of situated? And have you got all those details worked out?
I'm not in Toronto yet. I'm down in Nashville right now, where I spend most of my off seasons. But we'll be driving up probably next weekend. We're still trying to dial in our living situation, so got some work to do yet, but it's coming together.
Well, safe travels to Toronto. Camp not far away. First preseason game less than a month away, and the regular season gets going in just over 5 weeks. So it's crazy how quickly the summer has gone. Congratulations on the new deal. We'll see you in Toronto soon, Colton.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Colton Sissons of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't know why I'm so fascinated by pro sports teams and the fantasy football stuff. It's just like we saw the Jays do their whole draft order, and everyone was going crazy how intense it is. I can only imagine on these teams when you're together every single day for hours on end. Fantasy football must become very, very intense.
And here's 2 activities I think you get on a lot of pro sports teams: fantasy football and pickleball.
Pickleball.
So I was talking to, I think it was Dakota Shepley of the Argos, and he was teammates with a guy who plays for the Red Blacks now, Luigi Vallant. They're both Canadians. They were both with the Cowboys. And I can't remember which one I was talking to. I've talked to them both. One of them I mentioned. I said, hey, you know so-and-so. You were the Cowboys last year, right? Yeah, he was my pickleball partner on the Dallas Cowboys.
Is that right?
This is the thing. This is
okay.
Yeah.
I've never played.
I've never
played
tried
pickleball.
It.
No.
I have zero interest in it. I've I don't know. Have you tried it?
I have.
What do you think?
You're not going to like what I'm going to say.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay.
A lot. And I'm like you. I'm like when a new fad comes in, like ultimate frisbee.
Yeah.
I'm not right. In pickleball, I kind of shrugged in this, but I got to say.
Okay. Doubles? Is it doubles?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
So less running.
No, yeah.
Way
much
less
less
compared
running.
to tennis.
It's
very much lower.
Is it basically standing still? Is this like ping pong?
No. But it's not a high aerobic. Like it's
Okay.
a lot of quick movement back and forth, side to side. But you don't get out of a rally, winded. So
Okay.
All right.
Well, I was coming off
Back
a
to
bit
fantasy
of
Sorry, hijack that.
not to get into an injury report here, but I was coming off a bit of an Achilles tweak, and my orthopedic guy said,
Don't do
pickleball.
don't
It's an
think-
Achilles snap."
That's why I wonder about football guys
Yeah.
doing it, right?
Yeah.
Because that absolutely could be a
Well,
thing.
again, in your contract, you can only do certain things, right? You're not, jet skiing
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
going downhill slalom skiing. So I suppose you got to find other ways beyond football to keep your
Yeah.
body.
Well,
Absolutely.
the only thing that worries, like, we've done 2 of these interviews now with athletes driving.
I can't believe it.
Like,
That's 2 days in a row.
But how do they have the camera set?
I would
That's
imagine
the
they
part
have like a stand in their car.
Yeah.
And I believe that.
Because I've done tons of like radio interviews
Yes.
in my car.
So
all the
again,
time.
Doogie, the producer of this
Yeah.
show, we asked him yesterday, have you ever seen anyone do an interview while actually moving in a car? He said Joe Thomas yesterday was the first. And then the
today's the
next
second.
day, Colton Sissons. This is like a new thing.
Well, and I'm worried, like, we got to get, like, OverDrive legal
Yeah.
to figure out, like, if we ask a stupid question and, like, the guy gets rattled and drives it off the road,
Let's
are we
hope not.
liable? Because we
That's-
could ask many stupid questions.
That's something that I'm not interested
I-
in finding out. Terrifying answer.
I'd be interested once he's here for a while. I mean, I have Colton Sissons. I know he's Canadian, so it's not going to be total shock. But like 11 years in Nashville and then Vegas and then here.
That's
He picked it.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, listen, he had some good state taxes there for 12 years. He's come to Toronto. It's a little bit different there. Some great weather as well. But yeah, he got a pretty hefty ticket from the Leafs.
Yeah.
Over $4 million a year for what
Role
amounts
player.
to be a fourth line centerman.
Yeah.
That's pretty damn good. He did
Good life.
he did very well for himself. So shout out to Colton Sissons, friend of the show. Chris Strevler makes his OverDrive debut, I believe TSN 1050 debut, coming up in about 20 minutes. Looking forward to that. He's now an Instagram star. Won a Grey Cup with Winnipeg, was in the NFL for a bunch of years, was back up to Kyler Murray as well, who's starting quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. Really fired up to catch up with the Strevolution. That was a nickname I tried
That's awesome.
to get going for
That's
him
awesome.
many years ago. Didn't really catch on, but we'll see how he's doing when he joins us in 20 minutes. That's Feschuk, that's Naylor. I'm Korolnik. More OverDrive after this.
Back to OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
Big night in Montreal tonight. The Alouettes hosting the 0-9 Ottawa Redblacks, losers of 15 games in a row, dating back to last year. Is that right, Dave?
I believe that is correct.
15 games in a row a football team has lost.
Wow.
And Ottawa, I mean, there was a lot of expectations on the Redblacks heading into the year, a new quarterback, a new coach, and, of course, it's gone about as bad as it could. And going up against Montreal tonight, Dave, not a recipe for success. They are 13.5-point underdogs on FanDuel, and I don't think anyone's betting on them.
Yeah, and Montreal has, if they're not the best team, they probably have the best offense.
They're the best.
Yeah,
Team.
they're the best team, and they certainly have the best offense. And they have run it up on Ottawa both times they've played them before. Now, one of the games was close because Ottawa scored some points in the second half. But with that team and that roster, I do Red Black's pregame show as a guest.
With our boy AJ Jakovic?
With our boy, no, actually not. No, but he does the play-by-play.
Okay.
But I'm the pregame show. And I feel like I'm like the therapist for the fan base. I'm always trying to talk, all the questions are about kind of being on the ledge about this team, like for years. And I'm always trying to talk people, back to the ground. It's not.
But okay, so take me through that though. What is the silver lining here when you're 0-9 and the worst team in the league by a mile?
There's not much, but you can't get on and just this is an hour before game, right? I don't want to get on and say tell everybody. Yeah, I get no hope tonight. I probably am going to have to say.
Don't even bother watching.
Don't watch this. Well, watch the game. Don't listen to it.
Watch the game because you're going to bet Montreal.
That's right. Bet Montreal
minus 13.5.
Yeah, that would probably be wise, but it's just incredible. Like, you look at some of the numbers that the Montreal players have put up. Philpott and Sneed, the receivers. Davis Alexander, the prohibitive favorite now to win CFL MOP. He's healthy. He's ripping it. Philpott is doing things we haven't seen since, like, Milt Stiegel, like 20-plus years ago.
Philpott
incredible.
Set a single-season receiving record.
And
he's a wildly talented guy.
So good.
But the most games he's ever played in a season is 13. So that's been the issue.
Well, I was looking back at some of the worst seasons in CFL history. I looked at the 2003 Hamilton Ticats, led by Danny McManus, who I think was in his early 40s. They won one game in overtime, and it was my boy Paul Osbaldiston kicking the game-winning field goal in overtime. That was the only win they had. Are you taking the over-under 0.5 wins for Ottawa this year?
I'm going over.
Yeah,
I'm going over. There's never been an 0-18 CFL team. Now, and again, since we're in the middle of the NFL preseason, this is probably a point worth making. So, the year that the Detroit Lions went 0-16, do you know what their record was in the preseason?
It's probably undefeated.
4-0.
Okay. Was it really?
Yeah.
Of course. That's hilarious.
Now, and going back to, a few months ago, in the preseason, the Ottawa Redblacks looked pretty good. And in particular, their offense looked pretty good. 0-9. So,
0-9.
So just, when you see things in preseason, I was at the Steelers last week. And Aaron Rodgers was asked about preseason football. And he just, in his very blunt Aaron Rodgers kind of way, said, yeah, that's not real football.
Is that right?
He just absolutely said it, right? And he's not playing any.
Well, it's funny. You look at some of the NFL preseason rosters and the decisions coaches make. Okay, who's going to play, who's not going to play. Houston apparently was going to play a lot of their starters. And then Jaden Higgins, their number 2 receiver, blows out his ACL, and apparently now nobody's playing this week.
Well, do you see some of the Josh Allen action from the first quarter last week?
A lot of running around, guys chasing after him.
There's a play where I don't remember who it was. Somebody had him kind of by the arm, and he's struggling to get away. And I'm watching.
Imagine your season, like you're talking about, like hundreds of millions of dollars up in the air. Josh Allen gets hurt.
Well, last year was the first year that Josh didn't play at all in the preseason. But now with Joe Brady and everything's new. But on the risk-reward scale, it's hard to make a case.
Well, I think it's so interesting because we see Jeremiah Love, who goes 3rd overall to Arizona. He suffers a high ankle sprain. I think he had 14 touches in the first half of a preseason game. A lot of people were wondering, why are you trotting this guy out? Again, he's still a rookie. He's never played an NFL game, but I get he was a top 3 pick, and you invested a ton in him. But
rookies have got to play.
For sure. And I know Pittsburgh's starting Drew Aller and Will Howard this week, and Rodgers isn't going to play. Again, Rodgers is 100 years old. He shouldn't be in preseason.
No.
But you got to save every single snap for him for the regular season.
The Steelers are like one of the most, under Tomlin, they ran like very physical training camp.
Yeah.
Live tackling. Mike
McCarthy not
does
so
this
much?
like other extreme. No live tackling at training camp. None.
Period.
So, period. That's it. Yeah. So
And
I can tell you from being in Detroit, they're still doing it.
I was going to say, like, that's an interesting case study, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's a lot of coaches that would say, if you don't live tackle in preseason or in training camp, how the hell are you going to live tackle on game one?
Well, and the other part
one?
of it, I think it was Jim Leonard, the Bills defensive coordinator, was talking about this, that when you don't have live tackling and guys have to let up, the back quarter of a play isn't at full speed. Like, you
Right.
can run the first 3 quarters of the play at full speed, but if you're telling you guys you got to let up when they get to the spot, it's hard to evaluate the finish.
Right.
That's where preseason or live practice, like the Bills are doing against Cleveland this afternoon, matters.
we'll get Chris Streveler's take on that. He's going to join us to kick off the second hour of Overdrive, plus our NFL wins draft. Very controversial stuff coming up over the course of the next hour. Looking forward to it. Oh, hour 2 of Overdrive begins after this.
destiny awaits in New York City at the last Grand Slam of the year.
Out of this world. Sensational.
The U.S. Open, August 30th to September 13th on TSN. Subscribe now.
The Toronto Tempo live on TSN. Every pass, every point, every moment, live. Instacart Tempo Basketball on TSN.
OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
Second hour OverDrive on your Thursday afternoon. We're live on TSN 1050, TSN's YouTube channel, and later tonight on Crave. I'm Aaron Korolnik. That's Dave Naylor. That's Dave Festruck. We're in for Brian, Jamie, and Jeff today. Chris Strevler will join the show in about 5 minutes. Former CFL quarterback, NFL quarterback, and following that, we're going to be doing our NFL wins draft. And this is not who's going to be winning the Super Bowl, but it's about who's going to be picking up the most wins throughout the course of the NFL's regular season. And I was looking on FanDuel in preparation for this draft, fellas. Baltimore and the Rams with over-unders of 11.5 wins. And then Buffalo, Detroit, Kansas City, Philly, San Fran, and Cincinnati coming off a 6-win season, not having made the playoffs the last 3 years, are also at 10.5, which I think is really interesting because Joe Burrow was talking today. Again, a guy who's dealt with a ton of injuries, debilitating ones over the last number of years. He's healthy, apparently, and ready to rock this year. Why don't we take a listen to what Burrow had to say with regards to Cincinnati's Super Bowl mindset?
I'm trying to put it out into the world. I'm trying to manifest it. I'm trying to show our guys the urgency that I have and that I want us to have as an organization to go and make it happen. You can keep pushing it down the road, or you can talk about it now and say this is the year. And I'm tired of saying next year. This is it. Your life is too short to keep pushing things down the road, and I'm trying to instill some urgency and some intensity in everybody to go and be great every day and try to go make it happen.
You think the Bengals, Dave, are being overlooked this season as a Super Bowl contender? Again, that is my pick to win the Super Bowl this year. Cincinnati, your thoughts?
I don't mind it. I mean, they invested in their defense with Dexter Lawrence, which is a significant addition. And defense has been a big part of Cincinnati. Defense and basically quarterback injuries are why the Bengals have.
You have a quarterback who gets hurt, you're not winning anything.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how it goes. And why don't we bring in a former quarterback? Grey Cup champion, former NFL QB who spent time with Arizona, Baltimore, Miami, and the New York Jets. Now he's an Instagram, YouTube star, does an awesome job on those fronts. It is Chris Strevler joining us here on OverDrive. What's up, man? How are you?
What's going on, guys? I'm fired up to be here. I appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. What is your take on what Burrow had to say? I know you were listening in there, and your thoughts on the Bengals when you compare and contrast what they could present as opposed to the entire AFC, which clearly has a number of great teams involved.
There's so many good teams in the AFC and so many good quarterbacks. I think when you look at the top of the NFL, 4 of those probably top 5 guys are in the AFC. I'm surprised to hear that you picked them to win the Super Bowl because I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on them. But look, when you have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in Joe Burrow, when he's healthy, he could be the number 1 guy in the league. And I don't think you can ever count a team like that out. I think their offensive line's gotten better. They obviously have some good weapons on offense. That's a team I don't think you can count out.
Well, that's an interesting point. I mean, you look at that team though. Like they've missed the playoffs. What is it? 3 straight years.
3 straight years. But
they've also been to a Super Bowl, Chris. When you think about the AFC teams that are touted as potential Super Bowl teams, Josh Allen's Bills and Lamar Jackson's Ravens, C.J. Stroud's Texans. I mean, the idea that Burrow's actually been to a Super Bowl, how much do you think that is a factor here that, kind of should sort of garner some respect?
I think it's definitely a factor because it shows what the Bengals can do when he's healthy, right? And all these years where they haven't done well, he's banged up. He's missing a bunch of time. And I think they've improved in a lot of the right areas to be able to make a push. And I'm honestly surprised to hear that the Ravens are over under at 11.5 wins, as you guys said earlier, just because with the new coaching staff, I love Lamar Jackson. He's one of my favorite players, but there's always a bit of a transition there. Now they do have some great weapons on offense. They've got a good defense. So that's always going to be there. I think the Bills are fantastic. I think they're always going to be a contender with Josh Allen. And you mentioned the Texans as well. Like, probably one of the best defenses we've seen in recent memory. If CJ Stroud can get back to just being a little bit more like rookie CJ Stroud, I think that team's going to have a real chance to make a push. So it's going to be interesting to see how the AFC shakes out, but the NFC's stacked too. So I'm excited to see it.
Chris, quarterback injuries are a reality in both leagues. And I just want your perspective as a guy who was a backup in the NFL. You know, you hear a lot of times that NFL backups, their number one job is to, like, help the starter, you know, be there for him, like, help him be successful. And when that moment happens and you've got to go in, like, how much preparation do you have for that moment just because of the focus on the starters in all the game preparation from week to week when all of a sudden, you know, they hand you the ball and say, you're in?
No, it's a great question. I actually just made a video about this the other day. I'm going to put out on social media, but you have to take a lot of pride in your own preparation because you're not going to get a ton of reps in practice. If you're the number 2 guy, I mean, you might get a rep or two at the end of a period, but a lot of those reps are going to be scout team reps. So number one, in those reps, you're thinking, okay, how can I replicate what we're simulating here from the other team in terms of something that we might run? Can I put my eyes in the right spot and try to steal a rep here? And then what a lot of backups do, man, it's a big thing is walking through, being able to take the script after practice and say, okay, we installed third down today. Can I go grab a couple practice squad receivers and get a couple extra throws with them after practice? Walk through these plays, visualize, okay, we're running this play against this coverage. This is the player I'm going to read. Can I try to visualize that? That's something that I really had to take a lot of pride in as I became a professional, is understanding you're not going to get all those practice reps. So it's your job to stay ready. It's your job to be prepared. No one's going to hold your hand. And your job as the backup is, when your number's called, be able to go in and perform. But also, you talk about the relationship between a backup and a starter. There's so much collaboration in a quarterback room and so much open discussion in terms of what's going in. I think the backup can really add a ton of value to rooms in that way. And that's why you see a lot of teams preferring to have veteran guys that have been around the league for a long time, because they can add thoughts in terms of install and game plan.
Chris Drevler's our guest here on OverDrive. You spent a couple seasons backing up Kyler Murray, who's now the starting quarterback in Minnesota. Can you take us back to your time with Kyler, what type of teammate he was, and what are your expectations for him with the Vikings?
Yeah, I mean, that feels like a lifetime ago. You look back, that was 2020 and 2021. He was, in his second and third year, so still developing in the league. But I think that's another guy you've seen when he's healthy and he can be consistent. He was a Pro Bowler. And the Cardinals, when I was with them in 21, we were the number 1 team in the NFC at one point. I think a lot of people forget what Kyler Murray's capable of. Look, things went down the way they went down in Arizona. I'm a proponent of, sometimes for quarterbacks, it's beneficial for everybody to get in a new environment, hear things a different way. And I think when you look at what Kevin O'Connell and that staff has been able to do with quarterbacks going there and revitalizing their career, you talk about Sam Darnold, you talk about Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, all guys that are veterans that have gone there, that have had success and moved on. I think that's going to happen with Kyler. They've got a great defense. They've got weapons on offense. He's so dynamic. The one thing that I think is going to be a bit of an adjustment for him is consistently being under center in that play action game in that offense, being a guy that's a little bit vertically challenged for lack of better words. There's a little bit of a learning process there being under center and doing those play actions. But, Kevin O'Connell, the play caller that he is, I'm sure he'll install plenty of plays that play to his strengths, and he'll be super comfortable with the game plan. I'm excited to see what he does out there this season.
Well, Chris, we started off the top talking about AK's unconventional pick for Super Bowl champion, the Cincinnati Bengals. The chalk pick, the one everybody seems to be leaning on, is the LA Rams. And obviously the reigning MVP in Matthew Stafford, albeit a 38-year-old Matthew Stafford. How sort of eager or how enthusiastic are you about getting on that bandwagon? Do you believe the Rams are the super team that many people see them as?
I think if they stay healthy, they sure look like it. I mean, especially with these rumblings of Aaron Donald coming out. I know he's in his mid-30s, but he's not going to come back if he doesn't feel like he can still do it. So it all comes down to who can stay healthy, right? That's always kind of the game, is can you stay healthy? If the Rams do, I think you have to say that they are the leaders to potentially go to the Super Bowl for the NFC. But look at the rest of that division too. You've got the Seahawks, who are still extremely young and just won a Super Bowl. The 49ers, who getting a little bit older but still super talented. And then you jump over to the NFC North, and I look top to bottom on those teams. I'm like, all 4 of those teams are teams that could make the playoffs. So I think the NFC is about as stacked as it's ever been. There's a lot of good quarterbacks, a lot of good, well-rounded teams. But again, back to your question, I think top to bottom, looking at the roster and the talent they have with the way Matt Stafford's playing coming off an MVP season, it's hard to say that they're not the favorites to come out of the NFC.
Chris, you retired this past offseason, and they honored you at a game in Winnipeg this spring and earlier in the season. Now, I was not there, but I saw the scenes of this thing. And just for people who were like, there's got to be in the history of football, has a number 2 quarterback ever had a send-off like that? I mean, you're standing in front of like thousands of people. Half of them were dressed like you, like they had a Chris Streveler like lookalike contest. Like, just tell me about that experience and just kind of what was going through your mind as that was happening.
I mean, kind of a surreal experience. For me, it's interesting because I'm so busy doing other things and I'm kind of removed from everything in Scottsdale that when I got back up there, I'm like, okay, wait, this is actually over. Like it made me a little bit emotional. And then seeing all the support from the fans, that's just something I would have never even dreamed of, especially given the way that my career played out, predominantly a backup in the CFL, a little bit of a journeyman down south. I know what I am. I'm more than willing to lean into that. But the support from that fan base has been tremendous. And you see it with not only me, but the entire team. They sold out 17 straight games, not having the strongest season. They're still getting 30,000+ to a game. I think it says just a lot about that community and the way that they support their players. And I can't say enough about how thankful I am for the support that fan base has shown me, but also the rest of the CFL as I've started to transition into this next media journey.
Do you have the fur coat that you were rocking back in 2019 down in Scottsdale with you?
No, it's okay. I've told the story a million times, but it's my ex-girlfriend's mother's coat. So she was nice enough to let me go over to her house and borrow it. So that's very nice lady, very nice lady. But it's a family heirloom. It stays with her.
Oh man, you auction that off in Winnipeg, you raise a lot of money for something. We got to track down that jacket.
I had the CFL Hall of Fame ask me to go put it in there. So maybe we'll make that happen. I'm not sure.
Well, again, tonight.
Got to do that.
Well, I think for sure. We were talking about Montreal. They're playing against Ottawa tonight. Ottawa hasn't won a game. They're probably not winning tonight. I think we know what's happening here. But when you look at what Davis Alexander, the Alouettes with Philpott and Snead, I mean, that offense is absolutely disgusting. As good as we've seen in a long time. Just how good do you think Montreal is this year?
Man, that offense is humming. I mean, you look at a lot of people forget about Tyler Snead. He's going to be the second receiver to 1,000 yards in the CFL. He's like 20 yards away. So I think if he hits it tonight, that will be the fastest tandem to ever reach 1,000 yards. If I'm correct, so there's a stat guy out there that can probably check me on that. But I mean, you got Travis Tice coming onto the scene. He looks like one of the best running backs in the game. And I just love what they do offensively. I think it really plays to the strengths of their team and what Davis does. They run the ball, they double chip on the ends, allow him to take deep drops, take shots down the field. They throw a ton of screens outside to get the ball in their playmakers' hands. It's really, really fun to watch when they're all healthy and they're rolling the way that they are. I don't think you're going to get any contention when you say that Montreal looks like the best team in the league right now.
Well, Chris, congratulations on all your success. Follow Chris at CStrevy5 on the gram on YouTube as well. You're putting out great content for NFL fans, for CFL fans. So congratulations on that. We look forward to continue to watching your broadcast journey thrive.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Let's do this again.
Absolutely. That's Chris Streveler joining us on the Maple Toyota hotline. It is time to Toyota. Check out the Toyota Tacoma and Toyota Tundra pickup trucks, both available as hybrids. Maple Toyota near Canada's Wonderland in the Maple Auto Mall. Streveler is one of the most interesting players I can recall because you mentioned, I mean, he potentially was a short yardage quarterback for Winnipeg. He got opportunities in the CFL, didn't really thrive as a starter. He had a role-defined type of career in the CFL and in the NFL. But this guy goes back to Winnipeg. It's like the Beatles. Like, it's crazy.
Well, it's
how popular he is.
Because he played with a style.
That's exactly it.
A physicality you don't see from quarterbacks. Like he wouldn't avoid hits. He leaned into them, right? And he played basically like a running back.
Well, he's also an incredible athlete.
He's also a freak. Yeah, he was a receiver in college who played, and then moved to quarterback. And when he came up in the CFL, he got an opportunity right away. But obviously his physical traits were what attracted the NFL. Like,
right.
If you're young and you're physically freakish, no matter what position you play, you're going to draw some attention. But when he showed up at that Grey Cup celebration in Winnipeg in 2019 in the cowboy hat the fur coat, the bare chest. I think he had some chains on and stuff.
Oh, he definitely had chains on.
And he was feeling pretty good when he gave that speech. and a moment was born.
So good.
I always like athletes that don't do things conventional ways. Like Chris Streveler got to the NFL not the way almost anybody I know who's played quarterback gets to the NFL. It was a different kind of role. And even the way he played in the CFL was not like anybody else. So if you can do things your own way and succeed in pro sports, I love it.
That's why AK had the perfect nickname, the Strevolution.
Yes, I know. I
love it.
I feel like I didn't come up with that one. It came to me at some point back in 2019 in my heyday looking back at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Generally, I didn't want to tell Chris as we were betting against Chris Streveler's passing yards because really wasn't a great thrower of the football, but man, could that guy ever run it. So shout out to
Take
Chris.
the over
Streveler.
on his rushing.
Yeah, take the over on his rushing, take the under on his passing. Our NFL wins draft is coming up in about 15 minutes. You look back at the Blue Jays, who won again today, 2 of 3 from Tampa. What was it? Since 2023 in September,
yes.
The last time they won a series in Tampa at the Trop. And the one thing I'm going to remember about this series, it wasn't Daz Cameron or Nathan Lucas or Brett Bateman or Charles McAdoo. It'll be how many empty seats there are in Tampa, Florida, St. Petersburg, Florida, for a team that is 25 games over 500. There is nobody there. And then you compare that to in Toronto, where this team, call it what it was, is a dismal season, 40,000 strong every single night. The support from the respective fan bases couldn't be more disparate.
It really is shocking. It really is.
It's been like this in Tampa forever.
Can't believe it.
And again, good teams. Like against all odds in a sport that's a lot about money, good teams consistently. I honestly don't understand. Obviously, the economics of baseball are extremely favorable if you can, maintain a franchise with, those kind of crowds.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why that team is there.
There's a lot of stadiums. Like you look at Chicago too, the White Sox who are having a great year, leading the division. No one's there. No one's there. And the Jays, they deserve a lot of credit because they have put forth a product. You go down to the Dome, it's awesome. It's a lot of fun to be there. The ballpark the whole experience has been reinvigorated to a point where I didn't think really was possible. I know a lot of people who aren't baseball fans who just want to go hang out at the Jays game. They don't really care about the on-field product, which says a lot about what they've been able to do.
And that's what the whole renovation was targeted at, right? It was the idea that, forget baseball. Like, obviously, we're going to play baseball here, but it has to be an attractive place to hang out, right? It has to be an attractive place to, have a few beers or a few cocktails, whatever you're into. Stand on one of these porches or these sort of standing room only areas and network with your pals or your work buddies or whatever it is. And that's exactly what it's become, right? It's like a hangout more than it is a baseball game. And there's good fans there, but there's also a lot of fans that are, you get the sense as you walk around that they're completely there. It's a social occasion.
Sure. And that's funny because Streveler referenced that they get 30,000 for CFL games in Winnipeg. And even when their team isn't good. And I asked somebody out there recently, because their attendance, it's not been a great attendance here in the CFL. And Winnipeg's still clicking above 30, even though they're not great. And I asked somebody, I said, why? What is it? What are you guys doing that no one? And the answer was basically what you're saying. It was basically all the attractive young people want to come hang out here.
Right.
That's what it is.
You think the Toronto Argonauts would like that to be a thing, Dave?
They would love that to be a thing.
Yes.
They would love that to be a thing.
And you and I, we're the attractive.
We are the attractive.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. I think that's a possibility for the Argos because that is a beautiful stadium. And I think I think that whether or not they take the kind of the playbook, and I think there's a bunch of stadiums that have done it, where you have public areas, concourses. Yeah. You have areas where you don't need, you got a ticket and you can go anywhere you want. You roam around. There's high top tables you can stand, put your drink on. Those kind of things they've kind of revolutionized a lot of stadiums and made it more than just a game.
So I will say again, you weren't at the first Argos home game against Calgary. I did go down and they made some remarkable improvements to BMO Field. Again, the video boards are there. The seats are way more comfortable. There is an area in the south end zone where I guess in theory you could just stand and hang out. Yeah. And those are things that were not part of the experience in years gone by. So I am curious to see how that affects things. Again, I think this whole season for the Argos is really weird. I mean, when you don't have a home game until week 10, I don't think it's easy to pick up momentum. I don't think they're a great team by any stretch. But, again, I think if you're an Argos fan, you're a CFL fan, you're a sports fan, head down to BMO Field and check out an Argos game because I think they did a great job in the renovations for the World Cup. So shout out to Gianni Infantino and everybody involved there. And I guess the taxpayers of the city of Toronto.
I was going to say.
Who deserves a lot, who probably deserve more credit And the guys from FIFA, right?
60 million a game, I think, was the tax bills.
Is that what it was? Okay.
Like
Well, in that case, maybe I shouldn't be so quick to praise the guys from FIFA. That's Dave Feschuk. That's Dave Naylor. I'm Aaron Korolnik. Our NFL wins draft is coming up. My FanDuel best bets as well. Lots of good stuff coming up here on OverDrive.
Now, back to OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right. Our NFL wins draft coming your way momentarily. The premise is simple. We go around. Actually, we have the draft order set by young Doogie. Dave Naylor, you have the number one pick in the wins draft. Mr. Feschuk, you're second. I am third. It is snake style, and it's simple. You are drafting your collection of teams to win the most games over the course of the NFL season. So, for instance, if you believe the Buffalo Bills are going to win the most games, you should probably, Dave, take Buffalo number 1 overall. We'll get to that momentarily, but some news out of Detroit Lions camp today that Sam, don't call me Matt Laporta. I don't know if you remember Matt Laporta, Milwaukee Brewers outfielder. I always call him Sam Laporta, Matt Laporta. But Sam Laporta, tight end who's stud, one of the best tight ends in the NFL. He's got a hip injury. And you talked on numerous occasions about the Lions and just how aggressive they are with regards to live tackling, and especially in contrast to some of the other teams around the NFL. I imagine you're not surprised to see this news today.
Well, they've led the NFL in man games injury 2 years in a row. And so I'm preparing to go to Lions practice, and I called Davis Sanchez because him and I were at Lions practice last year. And I remember, like, his jaw dropping as a former player, watching the live tackling, like starters on starters to the ground in August, you know? And Davis is freaking out watching this. I'm freaking out watching it. So I called Davis. I said, you know what? I'm getting ready for when I go to Detroit, I'm going to talk about what I see this year and contrast it to last year. And I'll tell the story about you and I kind of freaking out what we saw and how different it is. And I go out and it's not different at all. Like I watched Sam Laporta like get body slammed in 10 yards in front of me. This is a guy who missed half a season with a herniated disc surgery last year. And he's taken a live tackle on like August the 10th. And Dan Campbell, bless him, unapologetic. The one thing I do think they are doing in Detroit is holding guys out. Like there were a dozen guys that were held out that day. And, you know, their center, Cade Mays, broke his wrist. Basically their biggest offseason acquisition. The center's been a big issue in Detroit. But the day he broke his wrist was a non-padded practice, and he gave a dozen vets a day, the rest of the day off after individual drills that day. And they go and he breaks his wrist. So, but the Laporta, that's the only thing that can stop that team. I love the Lions.
Yeah, no.
For that.
And listen, we'll get to that. I'm sure you might have the opportunity to draft the Lions, but we're seeing a lot of pretty significant injuries, right? The Chargers dealt with a number of injuries all within a very short period of time. Earlier this week, we know the Washington Commanders lost Laramie Tunsil, their left tackle, to injury. I mean, it just seems like the injuries during the preseason, Jeremiah Love, Jaden Higgins with the Houston Texans, these are game changers. And it's the last thing you want because these games don't matter. These practices, yes, you want to get your team in line the best you can ahead of week 1, but really, first and foremost, just try to be as healthy as possible. And a lot of teams are dealing with injuries.
And yet, you know, you can say try to stay healthy, right? And to Naylor's point, like it can happen in a non-contact situation. You can
the worst injuries in football are non-contact.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah. So it's really such a tough target, right? Like trying to stay healthy in any pro sport. I mean, we see it. Like the NBA has got an injury epidemic. I mean, the NHL's probably come off pretty good, but you know, the Maple Leafs have had their injury problems with their best player, you know, being uncertain about the integrity of his body the past couple of seasons. So it's just if somebody could figure out the formula, trust me, they'd be billionaires.
All right, so let's get to this. I'm very excited about this wins draft, and really, it's a glimpse into your expectations for the season. Maybe some hot takes, maybe some teams off the board go very high, and again, it's about forecasting the upcoming season, how many wins you expect the team to have. It has nothing to do with the Super Bowl. The playoffs are not part of it. So, again, New England had 14 wins last year. I'm going to guess they wouldn't have gone in the top 5 of last year's theoretical wins draft. Mr. Naylor, you have the number 1 overall pick. So the entire floor is yours when it comes to NFL teams. Who goes first overall?
So I cannot remember an NFL season where there was such a prohibitive favorite as there is going into this season. They being the Los Angeles Rams. And so in my research for this first overall pick, I have observed that between October the 18th and November the 15th, the Los Angeles Rams have 4 games against either the Cardinals, the Raiders, or the Commanders.
Okay, that's a good start.
Okay. So if I wasn't convinced by the Rams of themselves, that chunk of the schedule, well, I got 4 wins right there. Like, I haven't looked at anything else. I got 4. So I'm going Rams.
Rams first overall.
Rams first overall.
Rams 12 wins last year. Yeah. The LA Rams with Matthew Stafford winning the MVP. Pretty much everything going right now. They do have Myles Garrett now and maybe Aaron Donald as well. So it looks like a defense that's getting even better. Mr. Feschuk, you are selecting 2nd overall.
Yes, I am. And I'm, you know what, we were talking yesterday, you, AK, are picking the Bengals to win the Super Bowl. You said this again today. I won't take the Bengals.
Please don't.
So,
I'm taking.
I know you're going to.
I am,
and I'm a good colleague. I'm that kind of guy. But I think you're onto something with the Bengals in terms of looking at strength of schedule, because we often overlook it. I think we saw the lesson of the New England Patriots last year was that it can take you a long way, and so I think looking at strength of schedule as one of the major factors in this decision. The Detroit Lions, Laporta's injury notwithstanding, have, by many measures, the easiest schedule in the NFL. And so I am taking Dan Campbell's battered and bruised Detroit Lions.
They got the opposite of the Bills opener, because the Bills' first 5 games are like
murderous.
So this is, other than playing the Bills, which Detroit, they're the first team into the new Highmark Stadium on September 17th. These are the other 4 opponents for Detroit out of the first 5 weeks. Saints, Jets, Panthers, Cardinals.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
That's good living there for Detroit.
So even if they're injured, more guys can get injured. They'll be fine.
Yeah, remind me to get Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs and all those guys in fantasy. It seems like they're going to be lighting it up. All right,
exactly.
so I have 2 picks now at the turn, and I'm going to take Denver and Cincinnati. Denver, 14 wins. I love Denver. I mean, that team is stacked. Jalen Waddle, I think, is going to have a massive season for the Broncos. That defense as good as it gets. Bo Nix, another year of experience. They had 14 wins last year. I wouldn't be surprised if they got close to that number again. Again, Cincinnati, yes, they had 6 wins last year. Their over-under this year is 10.5 wins. They have the second easiest schedule. I love the Bengals this year. They're my Super Bowl pick. I think they win 12, 13 games. So Denver and Cincinnati for me. Back to you, Feschuk. Who are you on?
My next pick is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Ooh.
Because I really believe, I believe this is going to be the resurrection of Patrick Mahomes. This is going to be an MVP narrative, because everybody's going to say, how is he dragging this team to so many wins when he doesn't have any weapons and he's got so little around him, and Travis Kelce's old and Worthy can't be counted on to stay healthy, and Rashee Rice, nobody believes in him. I think there's going to be an against all odds Patrick Mahomes masterclass in NFL quarterbacking, and that will take them to many, many wins.
I really enjoy hosting OverDrive for obvious reasons. Awesome. Have a great time with everybody here. But one of my favorite parts is, like, you say something like yesterday, I said, I believe the Chiefs will miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I gave my rationale, and then they posted on TSN's Instagram, Aaron Karolnik says the Chiefs will miss the playoffs. And then like the comments like, sorry, who's that guy? I never heard of him. Who cares what that
all the Swifties are mad at you?
Yeah, exactly. All the Swifties are mad at me, so I really enjoy that. But yes.
Kind of ironic.
Yes.
Given you're a Swiftie.
That's exactly it. But the Chiefs, I would say, are rather divisive as far as what type of season they're going to have. Again, clearly Dave's a proponent of Kansas City. I think they're going to miss the playoffs.
I'm with you.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Take that, Feschuk.
Love it. Yeah.
Take that, Feschuk.
Yep.
Okay. The Chiefs are Feschuk's pick 5th overall. Where are you, Mr. Naylor? You have 2 picks coming up in the NFL wins draft.
You may have to give me a second with the second one. But I am coming out of the chute with the Houston Texans.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe the best defensive team in the NFL. C.J. Stroud did not have a great season last year. He's still a young quarterback. Guys oscillate from good seasons to bad seasons early in their careers. Sure. He needs to pick it up a little bit.
That defense, that offense, Jaden Higgins going down, beyond Nico Collins, and bring in Montgomery from Detroit.
David Montgomery there.
Not a lot of.
They got a couple receivers they took that are going into.
Well, Tank Dell's back this year too. Remember, he shredded his leg.
Receivers as well.
Okay, so Houston. I find it so interesting that Buffalo hasn't been taken. We're 6 picks in, and no one's taken the Bills. I find that to be very interesting, and the schedule cannot be overlooked.
Well, the schedule, the Bills. I mentioned that first 5 weeks, okay? But there's another stretch the Bills have that goes, here it is. Starts November 26th. Chiefs, Patriots, Packers, Bears, Broncos. Jeez. And 3 of those are on the road.
Let me ask you this.
That's a tough schedule.
Quick aside, if you had to pick between the Rams and the Bills to miss the playoffs, again, the Rams have a 38-year-old quarterback in Matthew Stafford.
Yeah,
I know he just won the MVP. Would you take the Rams or the Bills if you had to pick one to miss?
Bills, absolutely.
Dave?
I'd take the Rams
because I think
really? Like Stafford. I've said this
Stafford.
A couple times.
I mean, who knows?
Like,
38.
No, I think said this a couple times. Like there does kind of have that. It's George Springery. Like you had this incredible year, pretty late in your career, and what are the odds he repeats that? Like what are the odds he he plays 17 games.
Yeah, no, there is that. I mean, I say the Bills just because there's more unknowns on that team. And look, the defensive overhaul, which is a massive youth movement and a significant scheme change under a guy who's never been a defensive coordinator in the NFL. This could be boom.
Yeah.
Like, this could absolutely be great, or it could be bust. Like, I think there's a bit of a, and I don't think it's going to be a bust. I think in the early reviews, when again, preseason football, careful. But it's a lot of untested guys, especially in their defensive front, and they're thin at corner. I'm not negative on the Bills. It just, in that context of that question, Rams or Bills, there's more unknown about the Buffalo Bills than there is about the Los Angeles
totally
Rams.
fair. Okay, you have another pick to start the third round of the NFL wins draft. I'll do a little bit of a reset. We are doing 5 rounds. Myself, Dave Feschuk, Dave Naylor, and we are selecting the teams we believe will have the most wins in the upcoming NFL season. To kick off the third round, Mr. Naylor.
I'm going to Orchard Park, New York. Bills.
Oh, he is taking.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I mean, I'm not running them down.
Okay, you just were.
Yeah, it's like they're not going to win any games. They're screwed. Their schedule is impossible.
No. I think they're going to win the division. I mean, I thought New England got exposed at the end of the year. I mean, I'm a big proponent of the value or meaningfulness of strength or weakness of schedule. And the Patriots schedule last year, regular season, playoffs, everything.
So again, this isn't about who we think is going to win the Super Bowl. It's a very different conversation.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. When you're talking about
that's why the Bills are sliding in this draft as opposed to a Super Bowl.
I think if we were doing a draft, who's going to win the Super Bowl, Buffalo's going to the top 3 for sure.
Yes.
But
think so.
To have the most wins, maybe not. Well, clearly not. They go 7 overall to Naylor. Feschuk,
Okay.
8th overall pick.
Well, I feel like I'm getting one over on you guys because there's only 2 teams that Vegas has projected at a 11.5 win total. One of them's off the board. You took them, or Naylor took them first overall, the LA Rams. The other one is the guys I'm getting at 8th overall, Lamar Jackson's Baltimore Ravens.
That is schedule related as well.
Yeah, they're fifth easiest schedule by many measures. And Lamar got a lot to prove, trying to get paid. New coach, I'm a little bit, I'm not sure about Minter. I mean, this is a guy who's been in the league, 20 years and never been a head coach before. That gives me pause. But I also feel like, hey, they felt they needed a change from Harbaugh, and Lamar's motivated. They got a lot of weapons out there. I think the Ravens are a real team.
And the Ravens were lighter version of this, but the Rams a year ago, they were the team everybody was in love with. Like, it was like a thing all last year. Best roster in the NFL, Baltimore, right? And then they went into Buffalo in week 1 and lost.
They did, and then Lamar got hurt, and
Lamar got hurt,
and that was it. That was all she wrote.
But they were the preseason darling of a year ago.
It's interesting that neither of the teams that were in the Super Bowl last year have been selected through 8 picks in this NFL wins draft. So I will take the defending Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks here, 9th overall. I mean, this is a team that, listen, they won 14 games last year. Do I think they'll win 14 again this year? Probably not. Double digits feels pretty secure to me. I feel pretty comfortable taking Seattle in this spot. And this may be controversial, but I'm going to take the Chicago Bears here. And I know they won a lot of close games. And I know their defense may be one of the worst, if not the worst, in the NFL. But I love what they're going to be able to do offensively. I think Caleb Williams takes a huge step. And you mentioned Mahomes, Dave, with the burden that he might have to take on with Kansas City. I think Caleb Williams is a guy, if they're able to win 10, 11, 12 games, maybe they win the division, he's regarded as an NFL MVP candidate coming up this season. So the Seahawks and the Bears to kick off the 4th round in the NFL wins draft for yours truly. Dave Feschuk, you're on the clock.
I'm going to the team that won the Super Bowl before the Seahawks. Absolutely obliterated the KC Chiefs in New Orleans. I happened to be in the stadium. You were there, I believe. The Philadelphia Eagles here. I mean, this is a team that not a particularly difficult schedule. I feel like bounce back season is coming for Jalen Hurts and company.
I can't wait to see this Eagles team. New offensive coordinator, Sean Manning's a young guy. Of course, A.J. Brown's
every year they
every single year.
Yeah,
it's like for a team that's been good, it's wild. Well, every year,
and it's wild. Again, they won not long ago, and I feel people. Oh, Jalen Hurts has to prove this. Like, no, he doesn't. He's actually won, and very few guys can say the same thing outside of Patrick Mahomes that Jalen Hurts has been able to accomplish. So I am very curious to see what type of season the Eagles have, especially on the offensive side of the ball. The NFL Wins draft continues with pick number 12. I guess you've got 2 picks here. These are your final 2 picks, Dave.
Final 2.
Who are you lining up for the NFL Wins draft?
Well, when you play in a division with the Dolphins and the Jets, you can't go too far wrong. And when you combine that with a team that was in the Super Bowl, notwithstanding what I said about New England and his soft schedule, they've upgraded certainly the skill position players around Drake May. I mean, he was the MVP conversation.
He almost won MVP.
Almost won the MVP.
He almost won. It was extremely close.
Yeah, and then was not good in the Super Bowl at all.
That's putting him
at
on.
all. But, I mean, it was just like his second season. So you've got to figure there's growth there.
And he's got A.J. Brown this year.
That's what I'm saying. Last year's receiving in Stephon Diggs and, the ghost of Stephon Diggs.
That's right.
So I'm going to go. I'm going to take the Patriots.
Okay, Patriots are your first pick. Your final selection in the 5th and final round of the NFL Wins draft, Mr. Naylor.
I'm going to an ascending AFC team. Surprised people last year in a division that's not that difficult. I'm going AFC South, Jacksonville Jaguars.
Well, Jacksonville won how many games last year? 13?
Yeah.
They went 13-4 last year, and I guess nobody believes in them.
Yeah.
Jacksonville goes
and nearly beat
13th
Buffalo.
overall.
Nearly beat Buffalo in the wild card.
Well, they were the favorites in that game at kick, weren't they? The Jags over Buffalo was very close. Anyways, I think it was basically a pick 'em.
Yeah.
So again, it's crazy how we forget how quickly we forget what a team was able to accomplish.
I mean,
last year.
they were so close to knocking the Bills off in the wild card. No,
very much
Jacksonville is kind of like I feel like a GM after I pick a great player in the 5th round and say, I can't believe he was there. That's where I'm going on. Yes. I can't believe you guys left Jacksonville.
That's reasonable.
Okay.
That's
That's fair. That's
Dave,
fair.
your final pick. Again, some damn good teams on the board still.
There's still some really good teams on the board. I'm having a hard time deciding which one I want. You know what? I'm going to go with the other LA team.
That's what I was thinking.
The other LA team, Mr. Harbaugh and his love affair with his quarterback. I feel like that's going to pay dividends down the road here for the Chargers.
That's a strong pick. I'm going to appeal to our friends and colleagues, Pierre LeBrun, Mark Rowe, and finish with the
I know where you're going.
Dallas Cowboys in the final pick. Again, I like what Dallas has done. I mean, defensively, they're way better than they were last year.
Low bar.
Well, again, they were pretty much as bad as you could be last year. Offensively, I mean, you've got Dak, you've got Javonte, you've got CeeDee Lamb, you've got George Pickens. Yeah. Good luck. If that defense, I love the Caleb Downs pick. I think he's going to be a huge, impactful piece for them. And Dallas, was it 15th overall, final pick? Goes to me. So we're going to come back on the other side, do a full recap of, by the way, Joe from the Bridge, magnificent work. And if you're not watching on TSN 4 or 5, TSN's YouTube channel, Joe from the Bridge has been, he just like he knows where we're going. This guy, look at it.
Look at that.
Oh,
my goodness.
How does he do
Joe
it?
from the Bridge. Listen, I'm begging the TSN higher-ups, give this man a raise. What fantastic production work behind the scenes from Joe from the Bridge. That is very, very special stuff. And I can feel his presence in this studio. Great job from him. So that's the recap. We're going to send it out on social media as well. And Texas 105050, send us a tweet at OverDrive 1050 who you think has the best team when it comes to our NFL wins draft. Wow. Looking at it right now, I don't think it's me.
I like my team.
I think you should like your team. Yeah, the Bears may have been a little bit of a reach. That may have been a final. Could have taken the Chargers over the Bears, probably.
Nobody took the Packers.
Nobody took the Packers. Nobody took the Steelers. Nobody took the Niners.
Yeah.
Minnesota. Indy.
Niners. Yeah, Niners could have been a better pick than
The Niners
Chargers.
probably should have been drafted.
Yeah.
Oh, well, what are you going to do? It's live TV. It can't be perfect. Best Chuck, Naylor, Korolnik, more OverDrive after this.
Alouettes, Thursday on TSN.
All right, it's time now for today's best bets. They are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. I will be taking Montreal tonight, minus the points against Ottawa. Sorry, Red Blacks fans. I don't know what the number would have to be for me to back Ottawa, an 0-9 team that seemingly gets slaughtered every single week. And I have been betting Ottawa a lot this season, and it has not been good. I'm done. I'm done with it. I'm backing Montreal, minus 14.5 over a touchdown. Jake Mayer, 275 plus passing because they're going to be trailing all game. They're going to be throwing. And my boy Travis Tice, anytime touchdown, that's 4-1 on FanDuel. Today's best bets, powered by FanDuel. Assemble a same-game parlay for the CFL in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. 18 plus, physically located in Ontario. The CNE game for the Argos on Saturday. I will be heading down. I love going to the CNE. Again, it's like the 2-for-1. You go to the Argos game, then you go to the CNE. It's also the kind of the anniversary of when I was on a date at the Argos game. Probably poor decision from you.
Is that a good idea?
Apparently not. And then, well, it was actually a double date with my boy Tushar.
Oh, okay.
And then the girls left at halftime to go to the CNE, and we just never saw them again. So, yeah, the CNE game really doesn't bring back good memories for yours truly. No. Like, hey, you guys coming back? Oh, no, we went to the CNE. Oh, okay, well. And then we were there.
And there was
the boatman. Yeah, like, what, are we going to miss McLeod Bethel-Thompson in the second half, Dave? Come on.
You didn't chase him to the CNE?
No, come on. I wasn't leaving. I'm an Argos faithful supporter.
See, last year I was on the broadcast. I was on the panel for the CNE game. And they took the crew out and wanted to take us into the midway.
I remember some of those videos,
stuff.
yes.
And they put us on one of those rides that spins around where you're kind of lying like flat out. And I'm standing, I'm like, I'm not doing it. Like, I'm not doing it. And then I get in line, I look in the line, there's like a 9-year-old kid in line. I'm like,
maybe I should.
Maybe, I mean, like, I'll do it. So I do it. And Milt Stiegel's next to me. And he's freaking out once this thing goes. It like all of a sudden, like, boom, and we're going around and we're 50 feet in the air. And I'm like, Stiegel's freaking out worse than I am. And anyway, we both said, regretted that decision.
Yeah.
I'm not a midway guy, man.
Yeah,
I wasn't a midway guy when I was
roller
18.
coasters.
Never mind now.
Yeah,
no,
me neither. I like some of the fun things you mess around, but I know this
nothing that's gonna like make me nauseous.
This weekend in the city of Toronto, I think Saturday is just like an all-time crazy day. I know Ed Sheeran's playing at the Rogers Center, and that's 50,000 people. There's concerts at Budweiser Stage. There's a CNE. There's the Argos. Are the Jays the Jays are in New York this weekend. I guess that's why Ed Sheeran's playing at the Dome. So it'll be a wild scene in downtown Toronto. My advice: don't drive, because it will not be a pleasant experience. Not like it ever is.
It never is.
I was going to say, as opposed to.
Yeah, that's a fair one. That's a fair one. But big weekend ahead for the Jays. They take 2 of 3 from Tampa. They get 2 of 3 from the Yanks. They are in prime position because the final 30 games, I know everyone's been saying it, the Jays don't play a team over 500. And they just took 3 of 4 from Boston. They took 2 of 3 from the Yanks, 2 of 3 from the Rays. All teams that, let's call it what it is, are better than Toronto. You can do some damage against the Yankees. You don't have to face Garrett Cole this weekend. Now, tomorrow's a bullpen day for the Jays, so that's going to be a tough one. They have to face Cam Schlittler as well this weekend, but you've got Cease and Soriano Saturday, Sunday. Can you get 2 of 3?
Well,
if you do, you feel pretty damn good about yourself.
You got to feel like they got nothing to lose, right? Like, if this doesn't turn into anything, well, the season was already kind of half written off, right? There's not a lot of pressure on this organization.
It almost feels like that's a huge factor here, because there's not a lot to explain what's changed, right? No. They're still largely the same guys. They've had this influx of guys from Buffalo that have obviously contributed, that have been important, but it feels like since the trade deadline, there's a different tone, a different ease to the team. And suddenly, hey, what do you know? You go to Tampa, you get 21 runs in 3 games. The offense, which was at times this season the worst offense in all of baseball, they're climbing the ranks. I think they're only like 25th now.
All right.
So,
well, again, if this was a team that had the 20th ranked offense in baseball, they'd be 4 games up in the AL Wild Card, for sure.
That's it.
Because the pitching's great.
Yeah.
Like, it's been really, really good. And I continue to go back to the fact that the Jays signed the AL Cy Young Award winner in the offseason, potentially. Rogers has been one of the best relievers. Okamoto, who set a franchise record for home runs for a rookie.
If those were your headlines, if they said, I'm going to tell you 3 things about the 2020
you'd be like, wow, the Jays are going to win 110 games.
Yeah.
And instead, Vlad's done nothing. Springer's been hurt and really done very little relative to last year. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on for guys who have underperformed, but it's not over. If the Jays get in, which again is still far from a sure thing, but you have Cease and Soriano, and maybe you get Guerrero and Springer swinging it in the final couple weeks of the season, you feel better about them as opposed to any of those other mid teams in the AL wildcard race.
Well, if they keep going here, and it's going to be a delicate re-entry for Vladdy. I think that's going to be the story of the weekend, right? What is
Saturday? We expect him to return.
What is John Schneider going to do? Because if you've got this, if they walk into Yankee Stadium and the offense continues to thrive like it's been thriving, it's a tough decision. Do you throw this guy back into the 3-hole or the 2-hole and screw it up? Like, what are the odds that he brings it all back down to what it was at the worst of this season, because he just can't find it?
So he will be in a rehab game in Low A Clearwater, I believe, tonight, Will Vlad. So we'll see how he comes out of that. And if
he's good in minor league parks.
Yeah, well, that's it. And if he's healthy, and you're going to slide him in the lineup because you've got injuries you're dealing with too, right? Jimenez leaves today's game, so you need find a way to fill that void. Bateman's could miss some time as well. So some things for the Jays to deal with. Maybe Vlad returns on Saturday. Great to see you, fellas.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for doing the show.
Great being here.
That's Dave Naylor. That's Dave Feschuk. I'm Aaron Korolnik. Looking forward to a big evening in the world of sports. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m.